This is Anarchast.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. Once again, coming in from Anarchapulco in Acapulco, Mexico. We just ended the conference here actually a couple days ago, and a lot of people are still hanging around. It's really hard to leave this place, and we have Kieran Pearson here. You might know him from the Voluntary Virtues Network, the Kieran and Friends show, although he hasn't been doing it much because he's been driving down to Mexico all the way from Boston, and he's down in Oaxaca, and he drove up here now, and he's been hanging out, a lot of interesting stuff. He also has one of the most interesting stories about how he got arrested for paying his taxes. So we're going to get into all that. But the first thing we have to ask you, Kieran, is how did you become an anarchist?
My transition into anarchy was actually through two different things I attributed to it: fishing and speaking Spanish. So there's a story of my dad, Kieran Pearson. And he was fishing with a net and was catching a lot of fish. And so someone called the game warden on him. He wasn't hurting anyone. He wasn't harming anyone. He was just catching fish. And so he was arrested and thrown in a cage. And his children were at home by themselves, us. And he came home and he had this look of just dismay on his face, and he was so dumbfounded that they would arrest someone for trying to survive. I mean, it would be like someone going out and arresting a Native American, what he said, for surviving. And I thought that was pretty astute on his part, and that always stuck with me. And you know, as I grew older and continued to fish, I would be out on the shore, and it gives you plenty of time to reflect. And you're thinking, you know, does this bird have to get a fishing license? Does this seal that's in the water have to get a fishing license? Does a fish have to get a fishing license? Because they're catching fish as well. And none of them do. And, you know, what makes us any different if we're all animals on this planet, right? And so speaking Spanish actually was the other part of it. When you speak Spanish, it allows you access to so many different cultures, to go so many different places in this world. And being able to speak it, you get access to information in societies in which, you know, there aren't that many police around. And people live day to day, and like there's not really much government involvement in their lives at all whatsoever. I mean, I've gone months sometimes without seeing cops in Latin America. And so, you know, that allowed me to understand that, you know, there's a possibility that you can live without government in your life. So I think those were probably the two most, you know, things that, most poignant things that helped me become an anarchist.
Well, before we get into how you got arrested for paying your taxes in the U.S., let me ask you, where have you been in Latin America, and how did you learn Spanish?
I actually stupidly was a Spanish major. Well, maybe not stupidly, right? It got me here. I was a Spanish major in college. I've been to Oaxaca 4 times, Mexico in total 5 times, Guatemala, Nicaragua, Colombia, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico. Yeah, that's everywhere I've been. And I learned Spanish, you know, being a Spanish major, like I said.
How do you like Mexico?
How do I like Mexico? I love Mexico. I mean, especially here. The beach, the view, the weather is incredible. I've been here for 3 months since November, since I drove here from Boston, and it hasn't rained once. And, you know, you can go into the beach, and every day is going to be sunny and bright. I mean, it's sunny and bright right now, if you all can't tell. But it's amazing. The weather is amazing, and this is every day. So. The drive down, it was long. Well, I drove from Boston to Chicago in one day. Spent a couple of days with my family in Gary, Indiana, where I'm originally from, in Chicago area. And then I took one whole day. I ended up in Denver, and from Denver I ended up in Tulsa, New Mexico. And in Tulsa, New Mexico, I attended a 6-week workshop on how to build houses made out of tires, bottles, and cans. I imagine most anarchists have heard of them. They're called earthships. These are self-sustaining houses that collect rainwater off the roof. These houses grow food off of your wastewater. They heat and cool themselves. No furnaces, no air conditioners, and yeah, I mean, you can have one here. You can have one in Antarctica, and you will never have to put any. They generate electricity. You'll never have to have any inputs into it, and you can live free off of these houses. Amazing.
That's great. And you said that you stupidly took Spanish as a major, but I don't think it's that stupid. There's a lot of stupider things to take in college. Second language is one of the best things you can learn. I wish I had learned Spanish when I was in school. They forced me through 8 years of French because I'm from Canada. And actually my family is French-Canadian, half of them. And I just hated school as just a general point, so I wouldn't do anything. I just always make sure I got 50% just to make my mom happy. I wish I paid a bit more attention though in French, just because it would have came in handy for learning Spanish. Very similar language. You've got an incredibly interesting story, a hilarious story about how you got arrested for paying taxes in the USSA. Why don't you tell us about that?
All right. So do you want the abridged version or the? All right. So I've been an anarchist for 4 years, and I have diesel Mercedes, old diesel Mercedes, and the way the tax system works in Boston is defunct at best, right? Or it works perfectly for the system it works for. So they have a luxury tax essentially for having a vehicle, right? And so because of which, I was upset that I had to pay, and so I decided, you know what, I'm going to pay this in the most just asinine, just mean way that I can, right? And so I decided to pay it in pennies. So I go to my bank, and they love me at my bank. It's a private bank. They didn't take any of the money, the bailout money. They took none of it, right? They needed none of it because they were self-sufficient. And so I went to them. I told them what I was trying to do, and they totally helped me out. They have this coin counter machine that counts pennies, and every time a bag would fill up, they would call me to come pick up a bag. And so, and then it was getting crunch time, and so they called around to the other branches. And Boston is pretty small. So because it's so small, there's like several branches in a very close area. So I drove around and picked up all the other bags, and my trunk in my car was like dipped down, like I had bodies in the trunk. And and so I got all the pennies. And then I decided I needed some help. Like $350 worth of pennies weighs 342 pounds. So I got my good friend Daniel King, who came to help me. Shout out Daniel King, who is an anarchist now, since I've met him. And he helped me carry in. I carried in 200 pounds. He carried in the rest. And so we get there, and the security guards are like, "Oh, you're going to pay your taxes?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to do." And so I get downstairs. It's 4:30 on a Friday. 4:30 on a Friday. Before, I think, a holiday weekend. So I go in, and I'm at the booth, and I say, I'm here to pay my excise tax on my car and on my cars. And so I go in, put the bags of pennies up there, and they were just dumbfounded. They didn't know what to think. It was like, go make sure that this is where you have to pay and this and that. So I did that, and I'm like, yep, this is a place. And so then for the next half hour, they gave me complete runaround. And so my thing was, hey, look, if you're saying that I have to pay these pennies, pay with these pennies rolled up, that's fine. Just show it to me in writing and sign off on it. No, they were bags of pennies, right? Because I understand, like, having them rolled up is way too easy, right? So the lady wouldn't sign off on anything. She wouldn't give me anything in writing. And so I sat there. So 5 o'clock rolls around, or 4:45, security comes down at this point. So they thought it was novel and trivial at first, and now they realize that this might actually affect them getting off of work at 5 o'clock so they can go home and do whatever it is that they do, right? So now they're upset with me. They're like, hey, why don't you just take the pennies? They said they're not going to take them. Why don't you just take them and leave? So I say, hey, look, this is U.S. currency pursuant to whatever federal law at the time. I forget the name of it. Or legal tender, they have to accept it, right, for all debts. And so they're harassing me, telling me I can't film here. I filmed the whole thing. It's on my computer. I have to get it edited up. That's the only thing that's the only reason why people haven't heard of it yet. And so I get a bunch of runaround. 5 o'clock rolls around. They close the offices, and so now at this point they're telling me I have a 30-minute warning. Right? Like I have to get out I have to leave a public building as a member of the public. Right? In 30 minutes, or else I'll be trespassing on a public building as a member of the public. So 30 minutes comes and goes, and it's time for me to get arrested, right? So I go through the whole ordeal, get arrested. They take me to the police station, which is literally walking distance. It would take you 2 minutes to walk through. It took them 5 minutes to drive all the way around to take me to the station. And so, no, it was like 10. But I get there, and all the cops are like, hey, this guy got arrested for paying his pennies. And, like, the cops are like, yeah, that's exactly how I'm going to pay my taxes, because the excise tax in Massachusetts was supposed to be lifted in 1950 and this and that. And I'm like, so then why are you arresting me? And they're like, well, we're just doing our job. And I'm like, the Nazis were just doing their job. And he was like, shut up and just take the picture. Then they threw me in a cell for a couple hours, and it was funny because they had to note what property I had with me at the time, and they noted that I had $400 in cash in order to pay for my debt. So I get out. The guy who does bails, he was an asshole. He's an old guy in Boston, and he didn't want to let me out because I was like, yeah, I want to pay it in pennies. I want to pay my bail in pennies. I got the pennies right here.
How much is bail?
$40, right? So
About 40 pounds of pennies.
right, yeah.
That's pretty easy.
Yeah, just weigh it out, right? And so they let me out. I had court on Tuesday. So typically if you get arrested, you have to go to court the next day. But if you get arrested on Friday, you have to go to court on Tuesday. So I get to court. They had already tried to dismiss my case by the time I got there, right? Because it was like fugazi. So they called me again, and the DA was like, "Yeah, we want to dismiss all the charges. We just want a civil infraction on this, no fine." So the judge asked me, do you understand the charges? And I told the judge, I don't speak legalese. And he said, "Excuse me?" I said, "I do not speak legalese." Well into the mic, so it was really loud and booming. Now, before that, when the judge is actually walking in, you know how they tell you to all rise? So I stay seated. So the bailiff is like, I said all rise. He's looking right at me. I said, "Is that an order?" He said, "Yes, that's an order." So I stand up, but I turn my back to the court. So I'm standing there, 6'5", 300 pounds, with my back to the court, black. And the judge walks in, sits down. "You all may be seated." I stay standing for a little while, just so they know that I'm like in complete protest of the whole situation, right? So the judge is like, he's ice grilling me, and he's just staring me down like the whole time afterward. So anyway, to jump back forward, the judge asked me if I understood the charges. I said no. He sent somebody to explain the charges against me, right? And I explained to him why I was arrested in the first place. And this guy, been in court for years, dumbfounded that I was actually arrested for paying my taxes, right? And so I get back in the courtroom. Now the DA, and not only is she trying to give me civil charges, but now she's trying to tack on 15 hours of community service. So I'm like, I want all charges dismissed, both criminal and civil, right? And so the judge asks her what she wants to do, and she stuttered, and the judge was like, "Case dismissed," right? He knew I was right. She knew I was right. And so I go to sit down. Everybody's like, hey, you got to stay up there so they can finish their voodoo spell, whatever it is that they do, their chant, their whatever. And so I sat there and waited patiently while these people took a lot of my life from me, my energy. I could have been doing something else more productive, right? And so after that happened, I gave the federal code, which the Boston city government was in violation of, as to why they needed to have taken my money and asked for a mandate from the court that they accept my payment. The judge told me he wasn't familiar with federal code, right? It's like, how are you not familiar with the code that supersedes the code that you're enforcing? So after that, nothing has happened. We'll see. I might do something with it legally as far as that's concerned, but, that has yet to be seen.
Great story. I hope you get that video of what you did up. It reminds me so much of the Trailer Park Boys. I'm from Canada, but they have it on Netflix. If you hadn't, yeah, you didn't know I'm from Canada? I say a boot. You don't hear that? And I like hockey, so it's a giveaway. But Trailer Park Boys, there's a great episode where Ricky goes into court, and the judge comes in, and he calls her Your Honor, or Your Majesty instead of Your Honor. And then he can't really talk. He goes, Judge, I can't properly defend myself if I can't swear and smoke. And she lets him swear and smoke. It's a hilarious episode. Try to find it on YouTube or on Netflix. It's one of the best ones. And you basically did the same. That's awesome. So I love that story. So let me ask you now, you're in Mexico. You don't seem like really intent on leaving very quickly. Do you have any sort of plan? Are you just hanging around, or what's going on?
Well, I've been here for 3 months now. I've been looking for property in Oaxaca, a large, some acreage. A hectare of land is about 2.5 acres, which is about 2 2/4 football fields for most people who don't know. And that's American football, not soccer. Or Canadian. Same thing, right? And so I've been here looking for land in order to build myself a small homestead demonstration, natural building property to be able to show people what's possible here in Mexico, to be able to show people what's possible just around the world in general, featuring aquaponics, natural building techniques of all different kinds, permaculture, the gamut. So that's what I've been here for the last 3 months, going around all over Oaxaca looking for properties. And now I'm here in Guerrero, and I'm really second guessing whether or not I want to do Oaxaca, because the weather here is incredible. The people here are incredible. I really like the whole ambiance of this place.
Yeah, me too. I also love Oaxaca. One of my favorite cities, small cities in the world. Actually, my favorite small town is Huatulco in Oaxaca. There's so many great places in Mexico. And as you know, so many people are moving here just mostly because I've been talking about it so much. I can't stop talking about it. And you can see why, right? Like, it's great. There's literally dozens, if not hundreds, of people moving here, anarchists. And just in case anyone from the Mexican government's watching, we're not communists. We're not going to kill you. We're going to defeat you with our brains and go and make systems that are much better than your systems and make you obsolete. So if you want to kill us for that, go ahead. But I don't think they care too much yet. They're too tied up with the communists. They're burning down government buildings around here, which, I don't like violence in general, but if you're going to burn down anything, definitely burn down a government building. Don't burn down a store, which is actually they do sometimes, or they don't burn it down, but they'll break windows and stuff, these communists. And that's really sad, because that's, as you know, any entrepreneur, they look at us capitalists, so-called capitalists, people trying to make money, trying to make wealth, trying to create jobs. as being evil, and that's ridiculous. And the Marxists and the communists, you guys got to just wake up. You guys have already lost the anarchist game. Most people in most places know that anarchists aren't communists now. So you guys have been outed. You're just communists. Trying to create your own communist government doesn't make you an anarchist. I know you have this crazy idea in your head that you'll get rid of the government and then everyone will just not use money and not trade and share everything. We're not ants yet. That might happen. It could happen. Until that point, I haven't seen any evidence that's going to happen. You have any comments on that?
Well, Michael Shanklin, who I've done Voluntary Virtues radio show with, he calls anarcho-communists, anarcho-socialists, he calls them anarcho-statists. And so, it's exactly the point, is that, they ultimately want to create a state and are statists. They just don't realize it yet because they think that they're anarchists somehow, some way, even though they want to initiate force against others, especially people who are trying to generate wealth for other people who call themselves capitalists. And now I don't in any way, shape, or form defend statist capitalism, which is the system in which all of us have lived in, whether it be socialist or whatever. But I advocate for a statism. I mean, for anarchism that is free of anything to do with anything regarding the state or statism or the violation of NAP or the non-aggression principle, which is statism. I can cut you off there.
So we're running out of camera time here, which is really sad because this is a really good conversation. But for people who don't know, we just finished Anarchapulco here in Acapulco. Give me a few seconds thought of how you liked it.
Anarchapulco was amazing. I thought that, the spirit of Anarchapulco was captured, of anarchism was captured, and the fact that if there was something that someone saw was a problem or something that they saw was lacking, someone just jumped in voluntarily and made it work better. Like, there was no need to pay anybody. There was Wi-Fi in the hotel where the conference was at, but it was lackluster. So a couple guys came in and they set up a network to bolster the system to allow it to run even better. And it's just amazing. Like, there were moments in which maybe a speaker hadn't showed up because they were not there, or they were wasted, which didn't happen too often. But there were a couple gaps in which we just figured out and filled in, and someone took over that space, and it was amazing. Like, it was an amazing sense of camaraderie, not to use the word comrade, but it just was an amazing sense of just togetherness, and it really exemplified what is possible, what a society could look like if it were anarcho-capitalist, if it were voluntarist. And I think Jeff had, probably one of the most poignant moments, if anything, philosophically, at the end, when he was saying that hopefully one day we won't have to do Anarchapulco, which would be a shame because Acapulco is beautiful. It's hot as hell, but it's beautiful.
Well, my point was, hopefully we don't have to do it in this way. Perhaps in a few years we can get this world figured out and fixed a little bit, and then we just come down here and just have fun, and we don't even have to complain about anything anymore. Not that we really complain. That was another thing about the conference. It wasn't a lot of complaining. It was all about solutions, and you're right. Someone tried to fix the Wi-Fi. Apparently the hotel was a little concerned because they heard we're all anarchists, and they weren't really sure, and I heard through the grapevine that we were the best conference guests they've ever had in their life, and they all loved us because that's, we're not there to hurt anybody. We're there to help. We're here to change ideas, to wake people up to what's going on, and that's what we're doing. So I don't know if you're still doing your show, but do you want to plug what you're doing or anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah, so I would like to send a shout out to the Waker Cell, Michael Ocasio, Kwame Yasip, two of my best friends, two of which I've only met Michael in person once, and we actually went to the same high school and know a lot of the same people, but I've only met him once. Kwame lives in Chicago, near where I'm from, and I think he might be from Indiana originally. I'm not sure. But We do Status Be Like on Facebook. Continuously doing that. I have a couple other pages that I will plug in this video, and I'll put the links in. But as of right now, I'm so excited about having been here to Anarchapulco. There's so many people I've met and networked with that I actually want to work on a couple of collaborative projects. One with Aaron Battle and Cody Limbaugh, who I did Voluntary Virtues Roundtable with. And I want to do some more work with Michael Shanklin, and hopefully, I could do it down here with Jeff in Acapulco in this beautiful weather instead of the feet high of snow in Boston.
That's great. And yeah, you're right. There was so many great connections made. I think there's going to be a lot of business come out of the conference and a lot of great friendships as well. And that's what it's all about. We got to stick together a little bit and then help change this world. Bill Hicks said it's just a ride. It goes up and down and round and round. It's very brightly colored. But while we're here, let's make this place a little bit better. Let's help people and help ourselves at the same time. And that's really what capitalism, free market is all about. It's about creating wealth for everybody. So that's it for Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. Peace, love, and anarchy.
This is Anarchast.